We are at war. We are at war against al-Qaeda, a far-reaching network of violence and hatred that attacked us on 9/11, that killed nearly 3,000 innocent people, and that is plotting to strike us again. And we will do whatever it takes to defeat them.
Wow, we're back with the Politics Fix. Pat Buchanan's a political analyst for MSNBC, and Cynthia Tucker writes a news column for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Pat, I think there's a big fight in this country over what we're facing. The president says we're at war with al-Qaeda, but he will not use the language of the right, or the new right, which is we're at a war on terrorism. What's the big fight here? And language.
Well, the fight in language is, of course, that if you're fighting terrorism, then Hamas is involved, Hezbollah is involved, the IRA is involved, all sorts of people are involved. If you're at war with al-Qaeda, you focus on al-Qaeda, the people that are coming after us. But, Chris, I think the president's got a real problem tonight. He started off strong. He said, look, this thing was a foul-up. This guy was a known terrorist. He got on a plane. We had intelligence. We should have stopped him. We failed. And then he turns around and says, I take full responsibility, and we're going to do a better job. I mean, where's the accountability here?
That's what I wondered, too. First of all, let's go to the very accountability question. We know a couple facts because they gave them to us. Brennan gave us the facts. The father came and went to the CIA chief, the station chief, right there in Lagos. Imagine going, imagine ratting out your son to the head of intelligence from another country and sitting down with the intelligence chief. My son's dangerous. You got to stop him. And then they go over in Lagos, in Yemen, and they say, we're looking for a Nigerian. Why didn't the CIA guy in Yemen call the CIA guy in Lagos? Why didn't the CIA guy in Lagos call the guy in Yemen? It's one agency, the CIA.
But the CIA wasn't the only group.
No, but let's start with them. They knew enough.
Homeland Security was in the room. The State Department was in the room. I agree with you,
Why complicate it? The CIA blew it.
It was a failure of common sense here. When a father comes in and turns his son in, that son needs to move up to the top of every watch list we have. But I don't think anybody needs to be fired over this. They'll be dressed down, and if it happens again, if the same people were involved, they will certainly be fired. I don't see anything wrong with the moves that the president made that he outlined today.
How can we have confidence in the security system of the United States that failed so horribly here that the Border Patrol was waiting for this guy to interrogate him in Michigan, but he's allowed to get on an airline and fly over the Atlantic?
Well, for heaven's sakes, was anybody fired when Richard Reed, the shoe bomber, was allowed to get on a plane and almost blow it up, just as Abdul Muttalib did? I don't think so.
Let me tell you something.
In fact, President Obama has handled this much the same way President Bush handled Richard Reed.
Chris, you remember Jack Kennedy after the Bay of Pigs. He called in Alan Dulles. He said, in the British system, I go. In the American system, you go. He went. His deputy went. And
Ted Bissell went, too. The number 2 guy went.
The whole bunch of them went out there and said, you guys got to go. That's accountability.
I don't think we're elevating this to the Bay of Pigs. I certainly hope not. This was
300 Americans dead over Detroit is not a big problem?
They didn't die, Pat, for heaven's sakes.
Why didn't they die?
They didn't die in part because passengers helped to stop the attack, but also because the guy didn't have the proper detonation devices. Our security is good enough to stop them.
How did our CIA prevent him from having the proper detonation devices?
It was security. It wasn't the CIA. It was security that now stops that sort of detonation device from getting on planes.
An area. I want you to respond to this. The president said every one of us, every American can do our part. What is our part? Every American.
Well,
somebody please tell passengers on airplanes that they've got a job, because the only people that have stopped these things are the people over Pennsylvania that took that plane down, and these people that jumped this guy. The officials haven't been as good as the civilians.
I agree completely that the civilians did a good job, but part of our job is not to be henny pennies either, Chris, not to run around and say the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Not to do terrorist job.
What's the president want us to do, Cynthia? He said, I want every one of us, every American, to do our part. What is our part?
If you have a tip about a suspected terrorist, turn it in. Turn them in. Otherwise,
except the old man says my kid's headed to Yemen. He's going to cause trouble.
Calm down. Nigerian is headed for a terrorist attack out of Yemen. Look, the sky almost fell over Detroit.
We'll be right back with Pat Buchanan and Cynthia Tucker. We're going to continue this with a positive state.
President Obama is leading an extreme left-wing crusade to bankrupt America. I stand in his way every day. If I get a bruise or two knocking some sense into heads in Washington, so be it. I'll keep fighting for jobs and economic growth for Arizona as long as I'm in the Senate.
John McCain is Arizona's last line of defense.
Wow, the Straight Talk Express has become the Right Talk Express. That was a clip from Senator John McCain's latest ad in his campaign website. He's running, obviously, against J.D. Hayworth, it looks like, out there. We're back with the Politics Fix. Pat Buchanan. Cynthia, what do you make about left-wing extremism, all this stuff? He's clearly got a primary challenge on the right.
Well, absolutely. It is hard to imagine that John McCain is getting a strong primary challenge in Arizona, and to combat it, he's taking the route of his vice presidential candidate. He sounded like Sarah Palin. He didn't sound as enthusiastic about it as she does, but he sounded like Sarah Palin.
Because she doesn't believe it like she does.
Is this a grudging notch to the right by John McCain?
What did Nixon say? Run to the right in the primaries, Pat, and to the center in the general.
But,
okay?
But John McCain has a reputation for integrity and talking straight.
Look,
talking straight.
Not anymore.
I think he's been very hardline on Obama, much more hardline than he was before Obama was elected. And I think he's emphasizing what he's doing as a conservative, and he has been conservative, and he's got a tough primary.
What's he going to do when your favorite issue comes along, immigration? He's going to talk like a right-winger and push for amnesty.
I don't think.
How's he going to do that?
No. They'll put him on. They'll make him take the oath over there. No path to citizenship, and do not support it. And he will not support a path to citizenship. He will give his word in the primary.
So they'll take him to a Cambodian re-education camp. They're going to completely change this guy.
He went through that re-education
camp. I know, but you really
camp.
Think he will change?
I do. I think he will say, look, I don't think he'll come out with a path to citizenship. I don't believe it because I think it would be a killer.
But
because Obama's. I know it, but he backed off.
Okay.
And what kind of integrity is that?
Corrective shoes from throughout the campaign. He's basically saying that John McCain is correctable to the right.
Well, it sounds like a guy of no integrity whatsoever. It hasn't been that long ago that he was one of the biggest Senate champions of immigration reform with a path to citizenship. If he renounces that, he has no principles.
He's grown.
Oh, that's what they always say. That's what Arthur Sledger used to say about conservatives. Let's get back to the president. This issue of politicking. He basically took on Dick Cheney tonight in that briefing. He basically said, I'm not going to go hide in a bunker. I'm not going to accept the siege mentality. I'm not going to be a troll like Dick Cheney. I'm not going to let you become trolls. We're going to be positive. We're going to keep our rights.
Well, one of the interesting things about the complaints from the right that President Obama is weak on terror simply because he's not belligerent on the world stage, he doesn't swagger. Well, we saw a lot of belligerence from Dick Cheney. We saw a lot of swagger from George Bush. Where did that get us? Osama bin Laden is still at large. Al-Qaeda is still ensconced in Pakistan and Afghanistan.
But,
Thank heaven for a president who doesn't believe in that, who says we're not at war with the Muslim world.
He's been stung. He's been stung badly, and he's reacting. He did say we're at war with Al-Qaeda. He did the right thing.
Not war on terror.
Not the war on terror, but I'll tell you this, Chris. This opens up this whole question we're talking about. If we are at war, then that guy who came into Detroit is a warrior for Al-Qaeda who wants to kill 300
once
million.
Again, I'm in bed with you.
He's not a criminal suspect.
I don't accept the fact that the president's unpatriotic for giving a guy his criminal rights, his rights to an attorney and all that. But I think you're right. If he is a warrior from another country, treat him that way. Thank you, Pat Buchanan. Thank you, Cynthia Tucker.